winds that would whip up the waves and sink any ship that dared to sail the Mediterranean Sea during storm season. It would take out cargo, crew, and passengers. Paul was an experienced sea traveler. He advised the ship's helmsman and the centurion that sailing from Jerusalem to Rome under the then current conditions was a bad idea. He said it flat out, verse 10, "Men, I perceive that this voyage will end with disaster." But the centurion and the helmsman were determined to sail. You see, the centurion had to get the prisoners to Rome, and the helmsman was going to get paid. Here's the thing, though. The storm that Paul and his shipmates endured could have been avoided altogether by not sailing into conditions that made the storm possible. Nobody with any sense sailed the Mediterranean Sea after mid-September. It was too dangerous. Sailors knew they could avoid the danger of the storm, though, if they simply stayed put until conditions were more favorable. Listen, God allows storm conditions to rise. The truth of the matter is that storms, whether in life or at sea, storms are normal and storms are natural. They're part of the cycle that cleans the earth in the natural, and we'll come back to it later. Storms are also part of the cycle that cleans up our own lives. God uses storms for divine purposes, both in nature and in our own lives. That means, sisters and brothers, that God is in control of the storms that we must face. One way we know that this is true is that even when conditions are right for a storm, storms don't always happen. Somebody ought to be glad about that. Sometimes God grants us grace to avoid a storm, even though the conditions are right. Listen, anybody in here other than me willing to testify that God has blocked some storms that should have hit you and taken you down? The conditions were perfect. You were vulnerable, out in the open clouds on the horizon, nowhere to run. But God blocked the storm. You see, God is in control of the conditions, and he'll sometimes keep the storm from forming. That's his grace at work. I feel like I need to stop and praise God right here for storms that he blocked in my life. The conditions were right for a storm, and I chose to sail anyway. But the Lord didn't let the storm form. He didn't give the storm permission, because, you see, God is sovereign. He determines whether there's going to be a storm. God limits the conditions under which the storm can form. But listen, it makes much better sense for you and me to take the God-given opportunity to exercise common sense and to avoid those storms that we can by choosing not to sail into them. Listen, if you are aware of some conditions in your life that lead you into storms, one thing you can do is avoid those conditions. See if I can make it plain. If certain people or certain situations or certain places lead you to conditions that create chaos in your life, the best thing for you to do is to avoid them. Some of us need to delete some contact information in our phone right now. Go back and drop some Facebook friends, unfollow some folk on Instagram. And I ain't just talking to the techno-savvy. Some of y'all need to rip out pages from your little black book. You need to know the factors in your own life that lead to the formation of storm. You need to know whether or how much you can drink. You need to admit that the casino is not the place for you so long as you lack the discipline to walk away from your losses. There's a storm out on the ocean, but you don't have to sail into the storm. You can tell them folk bye. You can work on changing your habits. You can choose differently. See, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you always got. But there are some storms that you can choose to avoid. An unknown psalmist was trying to help us see this point when he declared, "Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, or sits in the seat of the scornful. Avoid the people and the places and the circumstances that lead you in the storm. Yes, God is in control. He may keep the storm from forming by his grace. But if we make the effort to avoid storm conditions, we are less likely to find ourselves in the storm. But here's the truth of the matter, y'all. Even though God controls the conditions that lead to storms, and God sometimes grants us grace by not allowing the storm to form, sooner or later, sooner rather than later, you're going to face a storm. Darkness and chaos, mayhem and madness, wind roaring, waves crashing, lightning flashing, storms. Some storms will make you want to give up, throw in the towel. But can I just tell you that most of the time, the only way out of a storm is for you to outlast the storm. Listen, Jesus does not always show up and say, peace, be still. Can he? Yes. Has he? Yes. But that ain't the norm, y'all. It happened one time in all of Scripture. Most of the time, when we find ourselves in the storm, we are in it for the duration. We are in the storm until the storm ends. We just got to ride that thing out. And here's the truth, y'all. Storms, by their very nature, wear themselves out. All you got to do is wait. Listen, it's going to rain until the humidity drops below 100%. But the only way for the humidity to drop is for the rain to fall from the air onto the ground. Listen, it's going to thunder and lightning until the pockets of hot air and the pockets of cool air mix and the temperature evens out. As long as the winds blow across the water, there are going to be waves. And the wind is going to blow until the air pressure equalizes. All of those processes take time. But eventually, if you hold on, the storm is going to wear itself out. Same thing is true with the storms of life. If you just hold on in life's storms, eventually everything settles. Don't attempt a permanent solution to your temporary problem. No matter how big the storm can't last always. In the text, Paul and his companions were in a terrible storm. Luke reports that the storm lasted some 14 days and nights. They couldn't see the sun or the stars. They didn't eat. The fact that they were, in Luke's words, exceedingly tempest-tossed means that they probably couldn't sleep much either. Paul and his shipmates were caught in a raging storm. All they did was worry about whether or not they were going to survive. And at one point, verse 20 tells us that they gave up all hope. But here's the thing. Skip down to verse 44. The storm ended, and they all made it safely to land. Yes, they were in a storm. In a terrible storm, but that storm, like all storms, came to an end. You see, storms are limited by chronos. I hear the old folks testify. Maybe I'm becoming an old folk because I've lived long enough to know that trouble don't last always. No storm is eternal. Eventually, every storm has got to end. And the promise of the text is that when God is on your side, you'll make it through the storm. Listen, don't let your storm worry you. The storm has got to end, and the Lord is going to keep you safe until it does. The Lord told Paul that he would survive the storm. All Paul had to do was outlast the storm. Listen, I know that the storm you're going through seems like it will never end. No sun, no stars, no light, everything is topsy-turvy, just darkness and wind and waves and rain. But the Lord sent me by on assignment to tell you what the angel told Paul. You gonna make it. All you gotta do is hold on. Hold out. God will hold you up. You